Right guys, welcome to today's video. The reason I'm making this video is there seems to be a lot of buzz about spent nodes, and they're one of those things that can happen but aren't likely. You see a lot in like houseplant forums, people worry that they've been sent a spent node, and I don't think I've ever actually seen one. I've just seen dead nodes, and there is a difference between a spent node and a dead node. So I just want to kind of put people's mind at ease and make people feel a little bit more confident about getting in touch with the seller and being like, what the hell is this? Right, so first backstory. A node is, right, have I got a plant here with a node? So a node is the bumpy bit on a plant stem where the leaves come out of, and you can generally tell in like climbing plants because often they have an aerial root coming out of them. There's an aerial root. I have no idea if you can see that. Ooh! Oh, you need repotting. Oh, look at the root. Not yet. Not repotting yet. Anyway, so what you can do, I'm not going to do it now. Instead, I'm going to put in footage of nodes and like wet sticks that I've just already taken, just because I'm not cutting this up for no reason. So often you can buy what is known as a wet stick, which is basically a bit of plant stem with a node on it, sometimes one, sometimes multiple, but no leaves. Sometimes you get an aerial root, it really doesn't matter. As long as you've got the node, you can grow a plant from that. The node's just where all the DNA and stuff's concentrated. It's like a little second brain for the plant, and from that node, another leaf will come. A spent node is what happens when the node has been used to be propagated so many times that it can't do it anymore. There's no more. It's used up. The only time you really need to worry about this is when you're buying plants online. Now, as I said, I've never seen anybody buying a spent node unintentionally. I don't think I've ever seen anybody selling them. I'm not saying they don't exist, but they are probably not the issue. I think the issue has been like blown out of proportion, and you see it kind of being bandied around when that isn't what's happened. What I do see a lot is people selling either the wrong plant, which is, it's easy to scam people because obviously when you've got a node, like a bit of stick, you don't know what that's going to grow into. But I do get mistakes happen. I have loads of wet sticks, I have no idea what they are because I don't label them because I'm an idiot. No, I don't have a plant shop, and that is one of the reasons. And whilst it shouldn't happen, it does. But what I do see people thinking are spent nodes are actually just dead, dried up nodes. That is something that you can just say to your seller, I'm sorry, this is not acceptable. It's not a spent node, don't say that because that isn't what it is. It's just that it's dried up and fucked. So you can't do it anymore, but that isn't what a spent node is. If you can get roots from it, it is most likely still physically capable of producing new leaves. With a spent node, you might see a couple of stems that have come off it, so it's been propagated before and then those cuttings have been chopped off. You could argue that is a spent node, but it is highly unlikely that it isn't biologically possible that it could produce leaves. Plants don't run out of resources because the resources are external to it. It will keep growing because in the wild, plants get trodden on and animals eat them. Nodes will have to grow back. From the perspective of evolution, plants have to be able to grow back from basically nothing. So spent nodes are, whilst they can occur, they are very, very rare. And what people tend to get a little bit, not confused over, but there is a little bit of confusion, and it is axillary buds, not auxiliary, that's different. An axillary bud, right, so the plant grows and it produces a leaf. I wonder if I might have got it on me. That one hasn't that I can see, but I'll insert footage. So basically what happens is your plant is growing and he has his node and he has his leaf coming from it. Now, that plant knows that something might happen to that leaf. It's not hedging its entire life on that leaf. And if that leaf breaks off, there is an auxiliary bud that is waiting to come out. In general, plants, well, it depends on the plant, but plants like Monstera tend to only grow one leaf at once. The axillary bud can be activated if you give it way more kind of resources than it needs. So if you keep it in like spot on conditions and it thinks it can. This next footage I'm going to show, this is a Philodendron golden dragon. It is not in optimal conditions. Philodendron golden dragon likes to break all the rules, but it is an example of a plant that is producing another growth point from its axillary bud. So here on my golden dragon you can see this is a new growth point. So he still has leaves coming out, but he deems that he's got enough energy to grow another one. And you can tell it's not an aerial root, it's definitely a little green bud, because the aerial roots look like that, and they just, I don't know, they just look different. But the plant isn't limited to just the one axillary bud. If that one dies, it can grow another one, but it needs really good conditions. So I don't know how many times it can do it, but it's highly unlikely that it can run out. It can run out of the ability to produce new axillary buds unless it's not getting the care that it needs. So I'm just taking some propagations, and I've actually already uploaded and scheduled the video, so I'm gonna have to take it down, add this bit of footage in, just because I happen to be propagating this Philodendron Brasil. And if you look at this node, right, so this is where I chopped it, so it's hanging down like this. There's a node here, which is the one I'm gonna put in water. But if you look at this node here, we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's been activated 5 times. So I don't know if it'll activate again. There's no reason why it shouldn't. I can't see an axillary bud, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was one ready to go just here. I always think of it as the phrase an heir and a spare. So the heir is the new growth point, but there's also the spare, which is the axillary bud. But the plant doesn't just have the one, because it, in the world, in the environment, out there in the jungle, it knows that bad stuff's going to happen to it. It's a dangerous life for a plant when you're just stood there and there's like go eating it. Plants get damaged a lot in the wild, and the ones that survive are the ones that can keep coming back. So they do have the ability to keep coming back again and again and again and again, as do nodes. If that plant keeps getting cut back to the same node, that same node will keep on being activated. The issue comes when that node has been cut off, because it's getting all the resources from the roots, and it might have a massive root system. If it's not got that, then it can't keep coming back. But that doesn't mean the node's spent, it's just not getting what it needs. So yeah, long story short, don't really worry about spent nodes. That isn't that much of a thing. What you do need to worry about is the condition that your node arrives in. If it's dried out, or if it's gotten really cold, or if it just looks dead and dry, feel free to get in contact with the seller and say, I'm really sorry, but can I have another node? Can I have a refund? Whatever their kind of policy is, it happens. If you do receive a node and it looks like it's had a lot cut off it. I didn't describe this very well, and I can't show you because I don't have one, but basically if you get a wet stick that's got multiple stems coming out of the node that have been chopped off, i.e. it's been grown from before, that is when you just need to message your seller. It doesn't mean it's spent, but it could be. What I would do is just take a photo of it, say what you think has happened, and see what the seller says. I think if they were a good seller, they would say keep rooting it, and if it's not done anything in, say, a couple of months, then I'll send you another one. I don't think it's necessary to kind of get all up in arms about it and demand a full refund. Just let the seller know that you're not particularly happy with the fact that it's been rooted before, and like you're not getting a new node. But I don't think just because it's got it's had its axillary buds activated before, that doesn't necessarily mean that it can't do it again. It will depend on, it might have grown those whilst it was still attached to the mother plant. We don't know. If it wasn't, then if it was cut off and rooted and then cut and then rooted, that's different to it just being cut back whilst it was still attached to the mother plant. I hope I can edit this to make it seem like it makes sense. I hope this was helpful and makes you feel a little bit better about the risk of buying plants online. It is risky, but that isn't something that you need to be excessively worried about. Spent nodes aren't that much of an issue. Shitty cuttings are. So just watch out for that. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope it made more sense than it seemed to when I was filming. And I'll see you next time. Bye.